with a donation.
Penn Station after a suspicious green liquid was found in a soda bottle during morning rush hour. The NYPD has increased its presence on the streets and began searching commuters' bags, briefcases, and even baby strollers for bombs. Officials from the Department of Homeland Security are downplaying the threat meanwhile, but Mayor Michael Bloomberg is defending his city's response. And President Bush isn't passing any judgment on the mayor's decision whatsoever.
It is very different being an analyst in Washington looking at data as opposed to being here in New York where you have to take responsibility to protect people's lives. We believe that there is some credibility to this, and if I'm going to make a mistake, you can rest assured it is going to be on the side of being cautious.
I think they took the information that we gave and made the judgments they thought were necessary. And the American people have got to know that, one, that we're collecting information and sharing it with local authorities on a timely basis, and that's important.
Adding to the jitters, this afternoon, authorities evacuated the Washington Monument after a bomb threat was called into local police. An initial search found nothing unusual. Joining me to talk about these latest threats is George Friedman. He's the CEO of Stratfor, the country's largest private intelligence gathering organization. Mr. Friedman is also the author of America's Secret War, Inside the Hidden Worldwide Struggle Between America's and Its Enemies, a really interesting book. He joins us now from Austin, Texas. Mr. Friedman, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Now, these reports are confusing from the federal government and from the city of New York. They seem to contradict each other. The city of New York and Mayor Bloomberg saying this is a real threat. The feds casting some doubt on that. Is this an example of the lack of coordination we heard so much about after 9/11?
No, I think it's the nature of intelligence. Intelligence is imperfect. In hindsight, we always know what's going to happen, but beforehand, you have to make a judgment call. And in this case, an imperfect judgment, the mayor, obviously responsible for millions of people, took a very conservative stance, where Homeland Defense took a different stance on the same data. Happens all the time.
Well, that seems totally fair to me. The problem is when both of those evaluations become public, doesn't it make people cynical about terror threats in general? They get the impression, or I do anyway, that no one is exactly sure what's going on, and is that a good impression to leave people with?
Well, that's exactly the truth. No one is completely sure what's going on, and to give anyone the false sense of security that, yeah, we really know what's going on, we've got it all wired, is going to make the people careless. The fact is that Al-Qaeda is still out there. We don't have it completely painted. We don't know everything that it's doing. And the information that comes in is always going to be ambiguous. You know, we want a country where the government is going to be absolutely right 100% of the time, and when intelligence services does that. We don't have that. It doesn't exist. So you see what happens when reasonable people see the same intelligence and draw different conclusions.
That's a good point. Now, in your book, you argue that, in fact, we're winning the war on terror. What are the measures of success in the war on terror?
Well, I mean, it's impossible to prove a negative in the sense that the fact that there has been no attacks in the United States since 9/11 doesn't prove there won't be one tomorrow.
Right.
But I think there is no question but that the quality of intelligence we've developed has improved dramatically over the recent years, and that, as the President pointed out, I think to some extent reasonably, many attacks have been batted down. And that's happened because the Islamic intelligence agencies in places like Pakistan and Saudi Arabia, who know the most about Al-Qaeda's behavior, began to cooperate intensely with the United States over recent years, in part because of the invasion of Iraq. So the answer is that we know more than we knew before, probably less because of the capabilities of the CIA, more because of what I call the coalition of the coerced, countries that felt they had no choice but to cooperate. And as a result, we're ahead on points. Doesn't mean we've won.
How confident are we in the intelligence that we get from the Saudis and from the ISI in Pakistan and from Turkey? Do we think it's good intelligence? Do we trust it?
Well, some of it has certainly been good intelligence. For example, during the summer of 2004, there were several attempts for attacks in the United States that were thwarted by intelligence that came in from the Saudis. Whenever you get intelligence out in the field, it has the possibility of being tainted. It has the possibility of being false. If it were science to be easy, that's why intelligence analysts get gray hairs, trying to figure out which is true and which is false.
But Bush in his press conference the other day said that there were, I think he said 10 terrorist plots that had been thwarted by the U.S. government over the past couple of years. He didn't name any of them. White House spokesman later, I think, filled in the blanks on 2 or maybe 3 of those that he brought up. But wouldn't it be useful to the rest of us, to the American population, which really does need to support the war on terror, to give us concrete examples of terrorist plots thwarted? Wouldn't that be good for morale?
Sure. There are two problems. First, how do you define a plot? Two guys drinking coffee in a coffee house start talking about how they'd like to blow up the Empire State Building. Is that a plot? It may be thwarted, but do we take it seriously? Second, the same sources and methods that were used to thwart these plots are still in play. If you lay out the 10 we've thwarted, very quickly an intelligence analyst on the other side can start to identify the leaks and the weaknesses in their own system. You don't give it away. I mean, one of the problems the administration has is, apart from the fact that it has a very clumsy public communications scheme, is that some of the stuff that is most effective, has succeeded the most, simply can't be revealed because it'll blow that capability in the future.
So it's just the nature of the business. Is it possible that terrorists or people who hate us in any case could just cause a lot of damage without attacking us, just by inspiring fear, which then causes chaos and disruption to people's lives and to business and to the economy, et cetera? Do they really need to blow things up to hurt us?
Well, they do, because they have to maintain credibility. After the 17th feint, where they simply kind of ping the system, giving the implication that they're about to attack, it starts to wear thin. In order to maintain credibility, they have to do something. It's interesting to note that they've done things outside the United States, both in the Islamic world and in Spain and in London and the attempt in Paris, but have not yet mounted an effective attack in the United States. You know, if we remember back to September 12th, and the way we felt that day in 2001, I don't think very many of us would have been confidently predicting, and I certainly wasn't, that in 2005 we wouldn't have experienced another attack.
Yes, that's right.
The idea that this simply, well, they decided not to, that's not true. They had political reasons for wanting to attack. They tried to attack. They failed. And the paucity of attacks matters.
Yes, something to be grateful for. Thanks. George Friedman of Stratfor, author of America's Secret War. Thanks for coming on.
Take care.
Still to come, former Supreme Court nominee Judge Robert Bork weighs in on the Myers nomination. Plus, is there a political message in the prize? Of course there is. The Nobel Committee awards the Peace Prize to yet another America hater. See a pattern here? Details when the situation returns.
Sprint Business is reinventing the yes man, so you can say yes to business when and where it happens. Because business today happens everywhere. And now that Sprint and Nextel have come together, you can work more efficiently from almost anywhere and make your business more competitive. In fact, Sprint is now the #1 wireless provider to business, so I guess you can call me a yes man. Although I prefer yes woman.
With Sprint Business, you can make just about any place a workplace. Yes, you can.
Ever wish you had a business coach watching your back and cheering you on? In business, as in golf, being competitive requires trusted support. Administaff is like a coach for small businesses. They reduce liabilities and offer a systematic way to improve productivity. They provide your team with big company benefits and handle the burdens of employer-related paperwork. Well, almost all the paperwork. Small business is good for America. Administaff is good for small business.
Coming up, paying priests to quit their vices, plus government agents bust a teenager making moonshine near his Maryland home. But the authorities have anything better to do? We'll ask that. It's a brewing situation. Stay tuned.
My new grandson should always feel safe in my hands, arthritis, pain, or not. That's why I trust Advil. Even after 20 years, nothing has been proven more effective on tough pain. Not Tylenol, not Aleve.
Advil, fast, strong, trusted.
Free time to make up for billable time. Hyatt Gold Passports faster free nights. Every 2 stays earns you a free night at Hyatt hotels and resorts worldwide when you pay through MasterCard now through November 30th.
Never plunge again. American Standard's new Champion flushing system with revolutionary flush tower technology. Only from American Standard.
Hey, son. So, you're turning 13, becoming a man. Your hormones are surging, starting to notice the girls. You know, maybe your body's doing some funny things. So, you want to talk? Or we could talk about drugs.
Yeah, let's talk about drugs.
There's no wrong way to talk to your kids about drugs. Need help? Get help. Visit our website at drugfree.org.
You heard it first on MSNBC.
Is she the most qualified person? Clearly, the answer to that is no.
Now the backlash over Harriet Meyer's nomination is igniting a political firestorm. Chris shows you why so many Republicans are now readying for a battle within their own party. Hardball, MSNBC Monday at 7.
She is going to be on the bench. She'll be confirmed. And when she's on the bench, people will see a fantastic woman who is honest, open, humble, and capable of being a great Supreme Court judge.
A confident President Bush speaking about Harriet Meyers, the woman he's nominated to replace Justice Sandra Day O'Connor. But many conservatives, including several key Republican senators, say Meyers is no shoo-in, mostly because so little is known about where she stands on the issues. My next guest knows quite a bit about the process of reaching the high court. He was a Supreme Court nominee himself in 1987. Judge Robert Bork joins us now from Washington. Judge Bork, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Are you impressed by the president's choice of Harriet Meyers?
Not a bit. I think it's a disaster on every level.
Why? Explain the levels on which it's a disaster.
Well, the first one is that this is a woman who is undoubtedly as wonderful a person as they say she is. But so far as I can tell, as anyone can tell, she has no experience with constitutional law whatever. Now, it's a little late to develop a constitutional philosophy or begin to work it out when you're on the court already. So that I'm afraid she's likely to be influenced by factors such as personal sympathies and so forth that she shouldn't be influenced by. I don't expect that she can be, as the president says, a great justice. But the other level is more worrisome in a way. It's kind of a slap in the face to the conservatives who have been building up a conservative legal movement for the last 20 years. There's all kinds of people now on the federal bench and some in the law schools who have worked out consistent philosophies of sticking with the original principles of the Constitution. And all of those people have been overlooked. And I think one of the messages here is don't say anything controversial before you're nominated. It's odd that Judge Roberts, who is now the Chief Justice, and who has probably be an excellent choice in many ways, also had no track record that was easy to follow. And now this woman who has even less of a track record.
None at all, it seems like. But her defenders, Flax from the White House, some of whom we've had on the show.
Flax, eh?
Flax, right? Yeah, professional spinners.
I know the word.
Yeah.
I just was interested in it. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's essentially what they are, some decent people. But repeating a line that's been devised by the PR office at the White House, claim that she is a great pick because she brings a diversity of experience. Not only is she a woman, and that supposedly for reasons I don't quite understand is very important, but beyond that, she has followed a different path than most Supreme Court nominees. She hasn't been a judge, etc. Is there any truth that that's an important qualification?
No, I think not having been a judge is all right. That's a lot of justices haven't been judges before. But I think this idea that it's important to have a woman's perspective or something of that sort begins to treat the Supreme Court like a legislature in which everybody has to be, all groups have to be represented in some way. And that's exactly the wrong message to send. The court is not supposed to be a legislature. It's been a legislature for too much of our history.
Right. Now, I was fascinated to see the president at his news conference the other day tell a reporter that in his many conversations with Harriet Meyers going back more than a decade, he'd never discussed the question of abortion. When you were nominated for the Supreme Court, did you discuss with President Reagan or anybody in his administration your specific views on Roe v. Wade or other issues that might come before the court?
No, I didn't have to, because I